Now, despite Sarah Connor's best efforts to warn us about the dangers of artificial intelligence, it really feels like it's taking over at the moment. And no more so than in the online history space. But what can we do about it here on YouTube and other platforms? But before we get into that, I just wanted to welcome you to my office. This is my new studio. And yes, if you haven't seen the channel before, I am a real person. AI, despite all its advantages, hasn't managed to make something look quite this good yet. So rest assured that when you're watching my content here on World War II Wayfinder, that you are dealing with somebody who's real. It's not just myself that has issues with AI and its impact in the history space.
My God, it's worse than I thought.
Dan Snow, well-known TV historian from History Hit TV, is here talking about how bad AI is at generating historical images.
Why couldn't AI just go online and just copy a picture of the Battle of Trafalgar? It's not that hard. Why would you do this? Why would you do this? Why would you despoil? Why would you ruin one of the greatest, most seminal events in history? Why? An event that Turner, so many other artists have painted. Do your job, I keep hearing AI is just copying stuff all the time. Why don't you copy it? You don't have to create harmful content like this.
And this is the problem. Dan highlights it perfectly there. Why couldn't AI just copy a painting and produce that? No, it has to give its own weird and warped interpretation. And that's really concerning. And what's more worrying than AI's inability to accurately copy a photo is where AI is likely to go next. And Elon Musk was recently on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about AI, and that it's his belief that within the next 5 to 6 years, everything that we consume online will be AI generated. And personally, that's something I find quite terrifying.
So 5 or 6 years, apps are like Blockbuster Video.
Pretty much.
And everything's run through AI.
Yeah, and there'll be like most of what people consume in 5 or 6 years, maybe sooner than that, will be just AI generated content.
Now, whether you agree with Elon's point there or not, that's up to you. I know in recent times he's become a very divisive character, but if he does know one thing, it is that tech space, that technological world. A lot of his companies are at the forefront of that. So when he speaks, regardless of how you think of him politically, I think he is worth listening to. At the heart of artificial intelligence, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Like any tool, if we use it correctly, apps like ChatGPT can be really useful as search engines because you can really get in there and ask it a very specific question and really tailor your question to get the exact response that you require. Now, until the advent of AI, content creators like myself and others out there had to go out and really do the hard yards when it came to content creation. We would have to come up with a topic, get the research materials needed, then do the research. If needs be, go out to that specific location and actually film there. So there's time, there's expense, all of that goes into it. Then you've got to come back and edit that work, put it into some sort of format that's presentable and, you know, legible for people, something so they can actually watch it. It's got value for the viewer, and then take that time to upload it and put it out there to the audience on YouTube and hope that the algorithm favors it. But AI is changing that. So with generative AI, it's really easy for people who want to mass produce content to do so. All you need are simple prompts into the application or the AI program that you're using, and you want to describe a scene. It will then generate a photo or a short movie clip that has that prompt in it, at the heart of it, and then that can be used to form part of your episode. You've also got the ability to have something like ChatGPT create a whole script for you. You can just put in the prompts, ask it exactly what you want it to tell you, and it will come back with that information. And then you'll need a thumbnail for it, so you can use ChatGPT to generate the thumbnail for it as well. And then after that, maybe some archive footage, Not really a lot. You use an AI application to narrate the script itself, so that you've then got that whole narrated script. You don't have to do what I'm doing, or sat in front of a camera talking to you guys. I can just have a computer do it. And if you want to mass produce AI slop, then it's never been easier for people to do so. Now, there's nothing wrong per se with mass produced content. You know, we all like history stuff. I do. You do. You wouldn't be watching this if you didn't. But typically when we mass produce anything, and you'll have seen it in your own walks of life, that when something's mass produced, yeah, you get more of it. That's great. But typically the quality is going to go down along with that mass production, because the demand to get more and more out the door to the consumer in whatever format that takes means that corners have to be cut to speed the process up. And that is what AI is doing for people who want to just put out mass produced YouTube documentaries, because it's really easy to do. And if they get monetized, those channels then gain that ad revenue share from YouTube, so they make money off of it. And because they're a faceless channel with one or two people operating the channel behind the scenes, but never in front of the camera like this, there's no comeuppance. They can just keep peddling stuff, and it doesn't matter how bad it is. If it's getting the views, it will get the ad revenue. YouTube doesn't care from that point of view in terms of the historical accuracy of the content. All it wants is more content to feed the algorithm, to bring more people in, to gain more ad revenue, and the cycle just continues repeating itself. Now, I'm not here to make this episode sound like a sob story for myself and woe is me, AI is taking over. I'm not, but it does concern me. I put a lot of effort into WW2 Wayfinder. There's a lot of time, a lot of passion, and expense that goes into this channel. It's something that I love doing. I love all aspects of World War II. On my commute to work, I'm listening to World War II podcasts or audiobooks. When I come home, I'm doing the same thing. I'm reading new books about World War II in my free time. I'm watching documentaries. I'm out and about filming for the channel. You know, I go to shows throughout the year, and I really am passionate about getting out there, going to these shows, and meeting people. This year itself has been incredible. I've met so many people at so many shows that have come up to me and said, oh, you know, thank you for what you do. Now, I never intended that, but as a consequence of the channel, it's nice to meet people that share the same passion that I do and have that community sense around the channel, which I think is really, really cool. And that's just something you don't get with these faceless channels. And the problem with those, however, is now there's so many of them out there, and they can push content out so quickly that it means channels like myself, like World War II TV, The History Underground, and others like World War II Wisdom, we're putting out content, but we just cannot keep up. We don't have production teams behind us. We don't do this full time per se, you know, whereas these AI generated channels can really put this content out ever so quickly. And it's really scary at the rate at which it's now flooding onto YouTube. So I've talked a lot about AI being here on YouTube, but what is it specifically to look for when we're looking for these channels, and essentially how we can avoid them? So there's three things, and first off, we'll look at the script that is typically generated for these episodes. Now, with the script itself, when you're listening to it, you'll often hear a lot of generic terms, a lot of what I would call cheesy or corny lines that, you know, no self-respecting person would realistically use. And the reason for that is AI thinks in a certain way, so that's what it produces. In terms of the actual historical content, it can't access closed source information. So I mean stuff like that's held on archives. So if you go to National Archives, it can't actually get that information. It's not available to it. It can only search through websites that are openly available to all. Places like Wikipedia, something that ChatGPT references on a regular basis. And as a result, with Wikipedia, you get often information that's ballpark accurate, but it's open to anybody to put that information on there and to get that information correct or incorrect. So if the information is incorrect, by putting it into ChatGPT, you're then just going to be regurgitating incorrect information. It's one reason why, if you do any academic work, that universities will always say, Don't use Wikipedia as your primary source. Don't cite it in any work that you do because it's so unreliable. And the same applies here in this context. Ultimately, what we're doing, although it's not backed by a university, it's not academic per se, you still have to go through books and research and put it into a format that means you can translate it to yourselves as the audience. So it's not academia in the true sense, but it is very much along those same principles. Ultimately, we want to tell the correct stories of World War II. We don't want to spin a load of bullshit to you guys because that's not what you want as consumers, and it's not what you deserve, and it's not what the veterans deserve. They need their stories to be told properly, especially as we're losing them now. So after the script itself, the actual words that are being said, the second thing to look for is how those words are being said. Often they will use an elderly, or not necessarily elderly, but an older English accent or an American accent, kind of like Stephen Ambrose. They want to convey a sense of trust and warmth, almost as if it's your grandfather passing on that information to you, to try and lure you into that sense of safe space so that the information does sound trustworthy. And
D-Day, June 6, 1944, Normandy Beach.
They all sound way too perfect. Now, I'm narrating this to you. I'm doing this in my office. Yeah, you'll hear me breathe. You'll hear the different changes in my voice. You'll hear those pitch changes, those tone changes. You don't get that with AI. Everything's it's not monotone, but it's on a level all the way through. And it's really obvious when you start listening to it that you're listening to a machine regurgitate something back to you. It's made even worse if you hear that they've used voices like David Attenborough's.
And I'm going to tell you how.
Or another celebrity. I heard one the other day, and I think it was meant to be Morgan Freeman. Now that wasn't on YouTube. It was on another website connected with World War II, and I was like really disappointed to hear that because it just sounded cheap. It didn't sound good. I think I know what they were trying to do with that, and they wanted to convey that sense of trust and grandeur and respect. It just kind of sounded cheap to me. But that's my personal opinion, as is all of this. And thirdly, the big thing to look out for, and this is the most obvious giveaway when it comes to these AI garbage channels. The thumbnails are normally just so ridiculous that they're clickbait beyond belief. Now, all right, I get it. Everything that's got a title could be called clickbait. Ultimately, whoever's produced that work, they've come up with a title, they've come up with an image, combined it, and they want you to pick it up in whatever way, whether that's like clicking on the screen because they want you to watch the video, or the book, or the magazine, the TV show on Netflix or Amazon Prime. It's all done with the intention of getting your viewer time. They want your buy-in to their product. So you could argue that every title, every image is clickbait. But in these terms, we're looking at Shermans that have got massive blades on the front because they're trying to represent the Kulin's hedge cutter, or it's a huge German piece of armor, way bigger than the people stood around it, or conversely trying to show the size of the Sherman and how small it was, showing a tiny Sherman with a giant soldier stood over it. And yeah, in terms of an art form itself, I suppose they look all right. They're interesting pictures. It's interesting that a computer can actually generate something like that just based on a couple of prompts. But ultimately what you're looking at is just utter nonsense.
I think you're so creative. You don't know what it's like to really create something.
So that's clickbaity, and then the titles will be something crazy as well, all to lure you in. And talking of Kulin's hedge cutter, I recently did an episode on the Sherman, and that was part of it. And then since then, I've seen numerous other episodes all spring up about the Kulin's hedge cutter. Now, I'm not saying that was from my video. There was another video released roughly the same time, which generated, I think, nearly 700,000 views or over 700,000 views, which is a crazy amount. And you can see why when you look at the thumbnail. It will have attracted a lot of attention, but ultimately it's all garbage. Everything about that episode, I watched it and it's just dreadful. It's just utter dross. And yeah, I don't have a problem calling out these channels on this because they are a real problem. The people doing it don't care. They just want to put out mass-produced crap. And the Coolin's Hedge Cutter is that perfect example. There are so many episodes, some of them using the same thumbnails. The titles are all over the place. But it's almost as if they're being generated by the same person, just with multiple accounts, because there are a lot of similarities there. Now, Facebook is another platform that suffers hugely from this. And there are lots and lots of pages on there with, I think, thousands of images that show AI-generated images. Now, typically, these are showing photos of the Holocaust, which in itself is a highly emotive subject. But when you look at these photos, they're drawing people in. Now, typically, the age demographic or the user demographic of Facebook is older people. Okay, it's one of the first social media platforms after MySpace. Facebook's been out there the longest, so a lot of people have grown up with that platform, and older people typically use it. And some of these photos have attracted thousands of likes because people believe the story that they're reading with the associated photo is genuine. But it's all AI bullshit. Again, it's been generated by not very nice people. There was one individual named who was generating them from accounts in Pakistan, all about the Holocaust. And frankly, again, it's all a scam. It's all designed to play on people's emotions, to get those likes, to get that engagement, so the algorithm thinks it's popular content, to then push it out to a wider audience so that that creator, if it is that individual in Pakistan, then benefits from Facebook's ad revenue. So it's all a money-making scheme for these people. They're just playing off of people's emotions. Now, sadly, none of these channels appear to be going away anytime soon. Both Facebook and YouTube do require your content to be marked as such if you use artificially generated content within it. It's that way of telling the viewer what they're getting, that they're getting an artificially generated product. But these guys are scammers. They don't care about that, and YouTube and Facebook don't enforce the policies strictly enough. It's also, and more importantly, a huge threat to the history of World War II going forward into the next set of generations. Obviously, we're 80 years from the end of World War II now. That's only going to keep getting further and further away. Our veterans from that era, they're becoming fewer and fewer every day.
And I had to go out and hold what he held. I wanted to feel what he felt, and I wanted an M1 Grant in my collection to remember this kid. And so I went out and bought an M1 Grant. And I started to show it off to some family members, and they thought it was cool, but it didn't hit them like it hit me. So I had to do more. I wasn't getting what I needed out of this rifle with just showing it to anybody, or maybe people who didn't serve in war. So I took the rifle to a gentleman named Joe Drago. Now, Joe will go on to be the first signature on the rifle.
The real risk here, in my opinion, is that as AI becomes more prolific across all social media platforms, which, let's face it, is one of the most common forms of media these days. Most people don't pick up these things behind me here and sit down and read them anymore because your phone is just more convenient. It's always with you. You can access a million books all at once. You know, it's just that much easier. And with social media, our attention spans are less and less these days. So it's a much easier way to consume content. The risk then is that our view of history and those events that happened 80 plus years ago are going to become so distorted. It's going to be very difficult for future generations to unpick what actually happened versus all of the AI slop that they're going to be subjected to every time they go on a social media platform. And it's because of that. It's one reason why I'll keep doing this channel for as long as possible. I will keep up with my Facebook page and my Instagram account so that if you do follow me on there, and if you don't, you really need to because they're pretty good. But that aside, it's really important that we keep those going so that actual history created in that online space by people who really care and are really passionate about history, it continues to thrive and it continues to get out there for those next generations so that we can bring newer people into history and maybe get them to pick up one of these things so that they take a deeper interest and continue to pass that legacy forward. I also think it's really important for yourselves. We're all consumers. I consume on YouTube. I watch the things that I like. Hopefully you got to this point in the episode, you're still watching me. And if you have, fair play, I appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe, because I'll come on to that in a second and why it's important. But in doing so, in consuming that content, you're getting good value for your free time. We only get so much of it. We want the right information that we're looking for, right? I don't want to be fed some BS line about something. If I'm going to watch something, I want that information to be accurate, especially when it comes to history. Factual content, it needs to be correct. It's the very point of it, right? So for me, I want to make sure that my content is absolutely authentic. And yeah, I'll make a confession. I've used AI on a couple of occasions. I've used it to portray German voiceovers in one of my Omaha Beach episodes. The reason I did that was because I felt that it gave a bit more weight to the episode, but it was only for a couple of lines, and they were direct veteran quotes. It wasn't made up. I was merely using AI as a tool to add a little bit of drama to the episode. Now, I did use AI for a thumbnail recently, again, on my Sherman episode. Now, at the time, I was a little bit hesitant to do so, but I thought, you know what, let's experiment. I wanted to show a Sherman on fire because I was trying to go for the angle that, they're commonly known as the Ronson, lights every time. I didn't want to show a real Sherman on fire because I find that that's disrespectful to the crew that would have suffered the event then. So I went down the AI route to try and show this, and what actually happened was someone on Facebook called me out for it. And you know what? I'm glad you did. Because as soon as I read that, I went, yeah, okay. That's my fear confirmed. I wasn't too sure about doing it, but I thought, okay, let's experiment. And when I looked at it, I thought, I don't know, but it takes a lot of time to craft a thumbnail. It's a long process. You want to get it right so that it stands out and people click on it. But yeah, it was AI shit, and I shouldn't have done it. And so I changed it. It's not there anymore. I've changed it to this thumbnail now, and hopefully if you've seen it, you enjoyed the episode. If you haven't, well, go check it out anyway. I think it's pretty good. But, I have used it, but I won't use it again in that manner. I may use it for voices to try and provide a little bit of gravity to an episode. I won't try and do a German voice or an American voice. My accents sound terrible. So I may use it in that context, but I'm not using it to generate an episode. I'm not using it to generate a thumbnail or a title or to do the heavy lifting in terms of research. I'm merely going to use it as a tool to enhance a veteran's account and keep it as authentic but effective as I possibly can. And I think that's also important. That's where we can use AI for a positive reason. And World War II Wisdom did an episode about AI and the dangers it poses a few weeks ago. And since then, AI has kind of changed and moved on yet again from when he did that. But it's a really good episode, and I'll link that in the description because I really recommend you check it out. And he highlights some of the good points that AI can be used for in terms of film and photo restoration. So after you've watched this, please go and check out his episode on that, because I think it dovetails with this one quite nicely. Now, ultimately, I've gone on about AI and the problems, but what can we actually do about it as consumers? Well, nothing. The biggest thing we can do as consumers is absolutely nothing. If you can identify that a channel or a post is AI generated and chances are it's going to be the weird and wacky thumbnail that just for whatever reason, when you look at it, doesn't look quite right. Swipe on by. If you don't engage with that content, YouTube, Facebook, any other platform that it's on will look at that and go, okay, this episode, yeah, it's not doing so good. We'll push it down. We'll push it down to the point where no one sees it. And that's what needs to happen. If you engage with it and go, oh, this is AI garbage, give it a thumbs down. Okay, yeah, maybe the thumbs down might help with the algorithm, but ultimately, if you just swipe on by from the outset because you think that the thumbnail looks so ridiculous, then the algorithm for that platform will think, yeah, maybe we just push this down a bit further because no one's really watching it. And that's exactly the best thing to do. It's literally do nothing. But on the flip side to that, for real content creators such as myself, when I said earlier about liking, commenting, subscribing if you haven't done so, please continue to do that. And if you can leave a comment, if you can share it to WhatsApp or share the episode via email or whatever other medium you use, share it and send it to somebody who might appreciate it, because actually that's telling the algorithm, hey, you know what, this content's really good, but I really like this. And the algorithm will then go, okay, well, these people liked it. Let's continue to push this out to more people. And that way, real channels with real people, real passion for the subject will continue to do well on YouTube and Facebook, and then continue to bring you more content. And then the cycle becomes a positive one rather than a negative doom spiral into some sort of AI hellscape. Right, thank you all for watching this episode of WW2 Wayfinder. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been informative and been useful to you when it comes to looking at AI and seeing how incredibly dangerous it is to history and what we're trying to do here as content creators on YouTube. Thank you all for your continued support as well, to my Patreons and my YouTube members. Without you guys, it just wouldn't be possible. So I really, really do appreciate all of your support. It means the world to me. All right, I will see you all in the next one.